In our first reading this weekend, we hear about Philip going down to Samaria, even though the town of Samaria is north of Jerusalem. And those of us, I don't know if you're like me, but I tend to say we go down to Kansas. For example, here in Nebraska, when we go south, we go down. But in scriptural understanding, you have this understanding that Jerusalem is on the highest of mountains. When you think mountain, think a pretty small hill, actually. But it was the great city, and so every place else you would go down to, even if you were going north, like to Samaria. So when he went there were great healings, there were miracles that happened, and there was great joy in that city. That's a word that just really leapt off the page to me when I was praying over these scriptures this weekend. There was great joy in that city. In our second reading, we hear about Jesus, who was it saying that in the second reading? Let me go back and grab that for us just for a second. Who was saying that? I just got this letter of St. Peter. So Peter was saying, okay, always be ready to give an explanation to anyone who asks you a reason for your hope. So it was Peter. Okay. The thing that really stood out to me is a reason for your hope. When I was in graduate school, I had the good fortune my last year there was a new professor that came. She had just written a book. Her name was Sister Katerina Schut, and she had just written a book called A Reason for the Hope. She was a very renowned sociologist, and she did a study on the numbers of priests in the United States, and it was pretty clear to everybody that there was dwindling numbers. And yet she titled her book, A Reason for the Hope. Obviously coming from this letter of Peter, but she went on to say that even if we're having less priests, it is an opportunity for lay ministry to come forth. And I think that is something that I always appreciated about her. I took a couple of classes from her. I really enjoyed her perspective on things. This pandemic, as we all know, it can be a time when we look at what we don't get to experience, the people that we're separated from, the fact that our church here is still empty. We can focus on that, or we can choose to focus on the opportunity for our hope, for our joy. That is the message that I have continued to try to say over and over throughout all of this. Maybe you've noticed. The fact of the matter is that I think Sister Katerina, her approach has rubbed off on me. I think St. Peter has rubbed off on me. We should always look for a way to express our hope and our joy. And what is the reason for our hope? Let's see. Jesus? Yeah, that's right. He is the reason for our hope. He has conquered sin and death, after all. The tomb on Easter Sunday was empty. It could not contain him. That is the reason for our hope. And so, regardless of whatever happens in our life, all the deaths that we can experience, we can choose to focus on the loss, the death, or we can choose to look at it in terms of the resurrection. At the heart of all of this is what's called the Paschal mystery, our belief that new life springs from death. That is what we celebrate throughout this Easter season. So that is what I encourage all of us to do, is to continually try to look for ways that we can allow other people to know our reason for our hope and to experience the joy that Jesus desires for us. In our gospel this weekend, we have Jesus starting to introduce us to the advocate, the Spirit that he is going to leave behind once he ascends to the Father. So he starts to tell us about that Spirit that will continue to allow us to remain in him and he in us. And that is what I invite all of us to do, is to continually pray that the Spirit will unite us to the Father. That's his greatest desire, is that we remain in him, to be filled with joy, to be filled with hope. One of the things that Archbishop Lucas, we had a priest council meeting this week, he invited all of us to start thinking about what is it that we think that we would like to take out of this time of physical distancing, social distancing, whatever you want to call it, this time of this separation from others. What is it that we want to take with us that we see as a good? So when we come out of this, what is it that we want to continue to experience in our family lives, in our work lives, etc.? I just think that's a wonderful thing for all of us to take the time to think about. And I've encouraged our parish council this week when we met after the Archbishop's meeting. I encouraged them all to think about that. As a parish family, what do we want to continue to bring with us out of this time? One of the things that a lot of people have noticed, have mentioned to me, that they see a lot of families walking together. They know a lot of families. They've said to me that they're having family dinners again. Sundays there's nothing that you can go and do, and so they're family time. They're once again, they're watching in their living rooms or wherever they're at. They're watching Mass together virtually, and then they spend the day together. Perhaps that's one of the things that we want to take with us. And we want to reclaim Sunday as a day of family and faith. Perhaps that's one of the things. Perhaps one of the things that we want to take with us out of this time is one night a week, at least one night a week, that we have a dinner with the family. And perhaps even share faith together at that time. Anyway, these are the things that we're just been invited to start thinking about. What are the good things that are happening at this time for us in this particularly uncertain time? And there's all kinds of setbacks, we know, but there's also opportunities for blessings. Let us continue to go forth loving one another as Jesus has commanded us to do, and to remain in Jesus' love, and then to be able to bring about that message of hope, that message of joy for others this week and throughout our lives.